As a twin, I've been searching for meaning, perspective, and independence. To see myself as an individual with my own ideas and values. Looking into the future, we have so many choices to make. Unlike previous generations, we can study, travel, and change our career several times. But how do we want to spend our precious time? Our modern world moves so fast, with only a few moments to stop and recognize we ourselves are a part of nature. We focus on the fine details of our lives when there is a fire at our doorstep. We are facing an ecological and climate crisis. But it's not being treated like a crisis. Our planet is not just stressed, it is exhausted. The population has doubled in the last half century. Forests are being leveled faster than they can be regrown. Carbon dioxide is being released faster than the world can absorb it. Climate change and deforestation are causing mass species extinctions. We rely on the government for answers, but those in power are full of false promises. They don't do enough and continue to support companies that produce and sell petroleum, gas, and meat, the greatest threats to our planet. So, 2 years ago, I decided I wanted to live more in line with my conscience. I minimized my waste from non-organic packaging and became aware of the brands I supported. I stopped using and consuming animal products and started to eat a whole food, plant-based diet. I tried to be more consistent. Buying a plastic wrap sandwich in the morning and eating a vegan meal in the evening wouldn't cut it. At first, I was sensitive to people's comments. I became aware of the judgment of labels such as veganism and zero waste. I decided that I wasn't defined by an ism or by anyone else's opinion. I am defined by my own actions. When you start to learn and act in accordance with a new lifestyle, it can be hard to find a balance and not slip over the edge into obsession and anxiety. If I became ill, I worried about my waste from medication wrapped in plastic and foil. I realized that balance and perspective are important. Being overly critical of myself was taking a toll on my well-being. My way of coping with the frustration was to go on walks in nature, to remind myself that doing my best is enough. I also had to learn to develop a sense of humor. My friends thought that my vegan diet was strange. I am like many of this generation, a product of confused consumer society, educated to understand that we need to live more sustainably, yet very much a part of a global economy. One of the biggest challenges for me has been worrying about the fact that we don't all feel the same urgency. Was it even worth trying? Initially, this made changes to my lifestyle seem futile. It's frustrating to feel I have no power over companies and government who put money before the planet. There are 100 petrochemical companies that make 90% of the world's one-use plastic. America's ExxonMobil and Dow are the top two, followed by China's Sinopec. They are funded by 20 global banks, including HSBC, Barclays, and the Bank of America. Governments support both the petrochemical companies and banks, knowing the huge costs to the environment. because the economy will always be its priority. The one way to stop plastic pollution is to make yet less and use less plastic. Humans are masters of excuses. People blame poor plastic recycling and rubbish collection when they can simply stop buying it. Companies blame the consumer for driving the demand of production and think that recycled plastic is the answer. But the plastic still gets pumped into the ocean. The trouble is, a turtle doesn't know if it's choking on recycled plastic or not. It's hard to do something different from what everyone else is doing when humans are wired to act the same. But it's clear that our very habits are causing the planet's problems. Our current world population has the highest rates of literacy and education. Yet 9 out of 10 people worldwide breathe polluted air. Air that is responsible for 7 million deaths each year. Australia, Canada, and America have a carbon footprint of approximately 16 tons per person. 3 tons per person is the maximum the planet can handle. 16 tons is over 5 times that amount. That is a lot, especially when compared to Central African countries, where the carbon footprint is 0.1 tons per person. We look to our leaders for guidance and clarity on climate change. But the very governments that committed to the Paris Climate Agreement limiting global temperatures to rise less than 2 degrees have not altered their policy in chasing a higher and higher GDP and reliance on fossil fuels. And yet, coal will run out by 2090, gas by 2060, and oil by 2052. We rely on a diet high in meat, dairy, and processed foods, with exhaustive studies showing the connection to heart disease, obesity, and certain cancers. We buy fast fashion, knowing of the damages to the environment, workers' health, and human rights at every stage of production. We put profit, pleasure, and convenience before the planet, and ultimately before our own long-term survival. But why? This led me to wonder what part mindset plays in our decisions. Why do humans on one hand worry about climate change, yet also contribute to mindless consumerism and a diet that negatively impacts the planet? A research study by psychologist Carol Dweck shows that the person who sees the world as an entity that can be shaped has a growth mindset, and those who see it as a static one that can't be changed have a fixed mindset. It's not just the older generations. It's us too. Interestingly, while most people are worried about climate change, only 1 in 10 people believe they can actually do something about it. Ask yourself, do I feel I can make a difference? I used to turn away from trucks carrying cramped animals on their way to the slaughterhouse. I felt ashamed of the rubbish I created and wanted it removed before I had time to think and question what I was actually buying. I had learned to feel guilt. Guilt rather than pride has been used to inspire pro-environmentalist behavior for some time. While guilt can be a catalyst for change, it can also mean we do the bare minimum to make ourselves feel better. Guilt is also used in clever marketing campaigns by power companies to offload their responsibility onto the public. But let's face it, we need to do far more than reuse our coffee cups. We can engage more and actively participate in our democratic institutions at the grassroots level to make sure our voices are heard. We can work to shape government policy, attend shareholding meetings, and support green organizations. We demand change from corporations, then ensure it actually happens. This should be done with a sense of pride rather than guilt, a much more positive mindset. So I thought I could just start with myself, and maybe my friends and family would feel the same one day, like a ripple effect. Convenience, instant gratification, and procrastination are constant enemies to sustainable thinking. By thinking locally as well as globally, we can take responsibility for our own actions, but also take a worldview. I learned about the psychology of cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort you feel when your beliefs and actions are at odds with one another. When someone tries to convince themselves it is okay to do something they know is not okay. But that discomfort ignited a spark, which became the motivation for my own personal change and growth mindset. By valuing each other's efforts as well as our own, and instilling pride rather than guilt, we can see the value of the smallest to greatest of efforts. And though we feel powerless in the face of climate change, there are many things we can do, like reduce and reuse to save space in landfills and natural resources. Shop wisely, bringing our own bags and choosing locally sustainable products. Choose renewable energy sources like solar power. Bike, walk, and take public transport. Choose non-toxic products in the home so they do not pollute our water. Further educate ourselves to form a local and global view. We can redefine well-being and simple living, which is not about deprivation. It's about making smarter choices and living with less. With less material possessions, we can have a calmer, more peaceful existence. Like us all, I must follow my own convictions in the absence of support. And that can feel lonely at times, but that's okay. As a new, mindful, and questioning consumer, we need to redefine what living comfortably yet sustainably means. I want to be a part of healing the planet, a part of a solution, not causing the problem. Humanity is now standing at a crossroad. I am here because I have chosen the path I wish to take for myself, but also for the sake of my children and grandchildren. Hope is not passively waiting for the inevitable. It is active and passionate. It's not one person doing everything perfectly. It's many people doing it imperfectly. Thank you.